And I want to give you a really elegant way to let the prospect know that their objection is justified, but isn't something unique or unexpected to you. Now, why would we want to do this? Why would we ever want to send a message to a prospect that their objection is justified in any way? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they have it, right? They have the objection, and once they have it, it's there, and it's real for them. And for them, at some level, it's valid. So trying to convince them that they shouldn't have it or that it's unjustified is a sure way to break rapport. So what we can do is we can say something really disarming that is proven to work. Here's what it sounds like. Mary, I want to let you know that you're not the first one to have doubts about whether this program will work for you. But let me tell you about Brian. See, when I tell Mary that her objection or concern is not abnormal, right? Or something that, is new to me, I accomplish several things. First, what I do is I validate her thinking and her feelings. If you want to build massive rapport and build massive logical and emotional certainty, validate the other person's position. Second, I disarm the power she thinks she has by having the objection in the first place. See, this isn't something new for me, and it's not something I haven't dealt with 1,000 other times. Then, when I use the word but, well, we all know the power of that word. Anytime we say the word but, we automatically discredit what was said before it. And this is done kind of at the subconscious level. What's the power of this? I'll tell you. The cosmetic company L'Oreal and the car rental company Avis both use this in their national marketing campaigns, and it made them number one. By first validating the weakness they had or the objection that the buyers had, and then using the word but to discredit it, followed by a language pattern that either builds up the person or their position, or builds up your features and benefits in a way that it more than outweighs their concern. So this is what L'Oreal did. They said, we're expensive. That was their weakness. In the marketplace, they were expensive compared to all the other cosmetic companies. So they said, we're expensive. That's the weakness. Then they said, but you're worth it. The campaign, we're expensive, but you're worth it. It's the you're worth it language pattern that builds up the buyer's self-value, their self-worth. You're worth getting the best for yourself. Avis did it this way. They said, we're not number one. We're not number one, right? Who wants to say that? We're not number one. We're not number one. And that was their weakness. They weren't number one. Hertz was number one. Then they said, but we're not number one, but we try harder. We're not number one, but we try harder. The we try harder was the brand promise. It was a feature that they would then build on by sharing ways that they try harder for your business. They went on to be number one. So when we can leverage this by trying it all together, it sounds something like this. Mary, I want to let you know that you're not the first one to have doubts about whether this program will work for you, but let me tell you about Brian. Or, Mary, I want to let you know that you're not the first one to think the onboarding process will be a distraction, but let me tell you about Brian. Or I can say it this way. Mary, I want to let you know that you're not the first one to think this program was out of their budget, but let me tell you about Brian. The key now is that you have to have a really compelling campaign, a very compelling testimonial, very compelling story about the transformation that Brian or his team had. So it could sound like this. Brian's team had been over budget for 2 quarters, and they thought just adding something new seemed really daunting to them. It was scary. But within 90 days, they had cut their refund request by half, and their closing ratio increased across the board by 27% in the first month. Mary, based on everything you shared, I am absolutely certain we can do the same or better for you and your team. So look, here's the key. The key here is the same as it is in everything that we do as sales professionals. The only thing we should ever share is things that we know are true. We should only make promises on things that we can stand and back up. Integrity is the standard at all times. So whenever we're coming back and we're sharing, let me tell you about Brian. You've got to make sure that that testimonial is super strong, something really compelling that truly does mitigate their concern. Now remember, experience is your best teacher. So give this technique a try on one of your calls today and invest the time to pre-build your after the but testimonials. And I think you're going to find that the more value that you can identify with features and benefits, the more your closing ratio will go up. I'll see you tomorrow.